We are live. Hi, it's Jane Boyd from 45 Conversations, and I am delighted to be connecting with my colleague Charlene this morning. We are in different time zones, but we've managed to find it into this hangout, and we're going to have a great discussion about childcare in the East Kootenay region of British Columbia. Good morning, Charlene.
Good morning, Jane.
How are you this morning?
I'm great. It's another gorgeous day. It's kind of sad to see summer winding down, but it looks like we have a little bit left yet.
Yeah, the same here at the coast. We're having just a wonderful stretch of weather, and it's been a good summer. So where in the East Kootenay region am I finding you this morning?
I am right in Cranbrook.
Beautiful. I love Cranbrook. It's a lovely area, and I've been having a lot of great conversations about childcare issues. Several of them have been with folks who are in the Cranbrook area. So, talk to me a little bit about your role in what it is that you do and how you're connected to the childcare issue.
My current role is as an infant development consultant, so working with families who have children from birth basically to 3, who have developmental concerns or developmental disabilities, and we support the families in their homes. And we also help families find other services that they're requiring, and quite often that includes a transition into childcare. So we are helping families find appropriate childcare situations for their children, and oftentimes that may include finding someone who has the capacity to deal with a child who may have some fairly significant additional needs.
Right, right. So, I mean, you're involved in a very important service because obviously early intervention is just critical, at the earliest stages possible. And then obviously, as you talk about moving children right into the community, whether it's into childcare services or other kinds of services within the community. So how do you find that in particular in relation to supporting families as they might need to access childcare services or individuals who might be qualified or skilled to come and work with young children in sort of a childcare type situation?
Well, it's a challenge.
Okay.
It's a challenge regardless of the early childhood setting that a parent is looking at, considering. So we have a great supported child development program, and it's their role to provide the support for children in licensed childcare facilities. They have wait lists. They can't always respond to the needs of families right away, and as any family knows, sometimes their situation requires an immediate response.
Right.
They are only able to support children that are in licensed facilities, and quite often families may find themselves, if they're shift workers or working casual or on call, they can't access that kind of a situation, so they end up in a much more informal setting with perhaps no support for their child.
So just to be clear then, so I'm understanding this, the supported childcare, which is a service that goes into licensed childcare facilities to perhaps assist or assess when a child might have extra needs of some description, that there's a sort of a special needs connection or component to. They can only work within licensed childcare settings. Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
Okay. And
now
so
that can be daycare, as long as they're licensed.
Right. So family daycare or a group childcare, but a licensed type of facility. But
Yes.
Often families whose children have extra needs, perhaps they're not in a licensed setting, and so then supported childcare can't assist them. Is that kind of what you're describing?
Yes.
Yeah, so that's tricky. That's very tricky then, isn't it? because and I know that I've gotten into this in other calls, but there seems to be not enough licensed care in the region.
And we're losing more spots in the next week or so. Yeah,
Yes, that's what I understand. There's a couple of programs that are having to close.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah.
Well, and then Jane, the other aspect of this is families who do have the option to take their kids out into the community to some of the parent and child groups.
Right.
Don't always find facilitators in those settings who have much background with supporting kids who have extra needs.
Mm-hmm.
And quite often families just give up on going to those things. They're obviously, I want to be careful with how I word it.
Yes, of course. But I mean, you're talking about an important issue. It's a hard conversation to have, but it's important, right?
Yeah, and it's not to say that all the programs are like that. There are some wonderfully skilled facilitators who are very inclusive, but I don't think it's necessarily in the consciousness of everyone that these programs should be accommodating kids of all abilities. Some of them have become so focused on school readiness and that we've kind of aren't seeing the kind of social and emotional support that families and children could really benefit from at this stage of life.
So for a child with extra needs, if the program, well, it may be open to all children, if that program if it's not really inclusive, and sort of meeting a child where they're at and where their needs are at, then it narrows down the options for families, right? In terms of being able to participate in varying programs and things like that. It's very
absolutely.
Yeah. So now, I mean, before we got on the call, we had a bit of a discussion about just the fact that you and I have both been in this field for a long time and working to support families and connected to childcare in varying and different ways. And this is an issue that is a challenge not only in the East Kootenay region, but in lots of parts of British Columbia as well as Canada. That we've been working to find some solutions to the childcare issue for a good long time now, haven't we?
We certainly have. Yes, we certainly have.
Yeah, and so I mean, what are your thoughts on that? Like, as we sort of work on this project for the East Kootenay region and work to get an updated understanding of what the childcare needs are. I mean, can you shed some thinking as to sort of a bit of that historic perspective as to trying to work through these issues?
The historic perspective, that's when you said that, I just got an image of a magic wand in my head. One of my personal frustrations is through this project and through a number of things, really, we are seeing kind of the people interested in this childcare situation broaden, and it's broadening to business, it's broadening to all kinds of people that maybe didn't think it included them for quite some time. But my frustration comes in continually repeating the history, and not everyone, but so many people that come in have the quick solution, and it just isn't that simple. And I would, my magic wand would be, as people join this, what do you call it? This
the task force or the movement?
Yes, the movement.
The
That's
movement.
the perfect word.
Okay.
As people joined the movement, that they had a magic wand of some of the history with them to know some of the things that have happened. I find it just totally surprising how many people do not know that we had a national child care plan on the table that dissolved in 2006.
Yes, yeah.
I'm still grieving, and a lot of people didn't even know about it.
That's
and
right.
Still don't know about it.
Yes.
So that would be one of my kind of magic wand moments, is that as people join the movement, they understand where we've come from and how long we've been working at this.
Well, I think it's important, and that's why even doing conversations like these are important, because, you know, we are able to bring some of that information out, and you know, it's not in the sense that you want to continuously look at, okay, where, you know, what the history is and completely dwell on that, but history provides some context, right? And it helps to, you know, we all learn from the things that we've gone through, and it's also, I think, important because it's not as though, you know, even in your region, you know, a group of folks got together around a table and decided, okay, well, it's time to start addressing childcare, right? Like,
yeah, exactly.
People have been addressing childcare for, you know, I mean, how long have I been in the field? You know, 25, 26 years. And you and I were talking about colleagues, you know, Sandra Griffin being one of them, who's actually, she's on my advisory group for 45 Conversations. And, you know, it's like this. There are people who have been tirelessly working at this for a good long time. And while progress has been made on a lot of levels, we still have a long way to go. We really do. Yeah. You know, so I'm glad that you sort of brought that up this morning, and you know, it's important for us to be mindful of these things, I think.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. It's, you say it's Sandra Griffin. I just have to tell you that when I did my early childhood at Okanagan College back in 1980 to 82, Sandra Griffin was one of the practicum supervisors at a child care program. And every student wanted to have their practicum at Sandra's program.
Oh, yes, isn't that awesome? That is awesome. Wow. Yes. That's so neat.
Yeah.
That's so neat. Oh, well, hopefully she will watch our conversation at some point, and she'll get a smile over that, right? You know, she's an amazing individual who's connected, you know, being involved in so many different things, you know, provincially and nationally. I mean, and you know, I feel very blessed to have her connected to things that I'm doing through 45 Conversations. It's pretty neat. So so something else that, I mean, we touched on a little bit earlier in terms of you know, families, you know, sort of qualified or skilled, say, facilitators at programs in communities, or you know, things like that. But something that's come up quite frequently in some of the conversations that I've had relate to a shortage of early childhood educators, infant toddler educators, special needs educators, you know, being able to work within the region. Do you have any thoughts on that?
I have a lot of thoughts on that.
Well, please do. Please share some of them. Yeah, I mean, it is an issue, right? There is an issue with finding qualified individuals to work in programs.
I find it so interesting how some of the initiatives that are trying to come at this, it's a provincial, it's probably a national dilemma. We can't retain people in the field.
Right.
And what I'm seeing is we are lowering standards. I did a 2-year program back in 80 to 82. It was a 2-year diploma, and then I had to do more to complete my special needs and infant toddler certification.
Right.
So it was probably closer to 3 years total. And now we're pumping people out in a few months, doing more and more of it online. So we're making the making it easier to get qualifications. We're giving bursaries to people to get these qualifications. But we're doing nothing about the pay. And why do people leave the field, and why do they not want to go into it? This is one of the things, these historical things that really frustrates me, that I don't think I'm going out on a limb by saying we know that the pay in this field is a huge problem with attraction and retention of qualified staff. And we're coming at it from every angle, except what can we do to improve compensation for people in the field.
Yeah, I mean, definitely that seems to be a common theme that's coming up in the discussions that I'm having, and I'm certain that, you know, we will hear more about this perhaps in the study part, you know, in the survey part that goes out later in the fall to programs and you know, to families and things. But I mean, you know, there's lots of research and sort of findings already that tell us that this is an issue. It's very difficult, especially I think when oftentimes, I mean, as much as we do have men in the field, it is a field that is, you know, the majority of which are women, and you know, the entry age for many of them is when they're young, before they have families or you know, get married themselves, or you know, have a partner or something. And so it seems, and this is something that has been mentioned to me, that you know, as individuals perhaps, you know, are in the field, maybe they're in the field 3 or 4 years, they're getting a little bit of maturity, and then, you know, life is sort of happening simultaneously, because let's face it, we all need to have a life outside of what it is that we do professionally. And so, you know, once educators say themselves start to have families, then the reality is that they could hardly afford to sort of maintain a standard of living on their own, but you know, based on the wage that they're making. But once they actually have children themselves, oftentimes they can't return to the field, right? Because it's just too, it's not affordable for them.
Yes.
They themselves can't afford childcare.
No, that's right.
Yeah. So it's that I find to be a really interesting part of the dilemma, in that I mean, it's not the only part, but it is an important part, because what seems to be the case in some communities is that then these educators, sometimes they then choose to leave the field and be at home with their own children, and perhaps they either start a licensed program, or in some cases, you know, an unlicensed program, because it's very hard. It's very hard to maintain the monitoring in a region as large as your region is, right?
Yes, it is. Yeah. And part of that is that maybe it's a whole separate conversation, but people moving to other positions that pay better and are seen or kind of perceived in higher esteem.
Yes.
And I don't want to poke fingers, but I'm just going to say Strong Start as an example. Here we have this new, even though we've been doing family resource type programs for years, now all of a sudden we have this new program where, because it's attached to schools or something, and it's about school readiness, and the facilitators there are paid better, so people will jump ship and go where they can make more money and have less responsibility, really, and be in a position that's held in higher esteem, I guess.
Right. And I mean, I have heard this concern. And I mean, that program has been around for a number of years now, but I know when it was first introduced, you know, the field, I guess, the early childhood education field, lost, I don't know if lost is the right word, but you know, a number of individuals moved to work in those programs instead. And so it seems as though a lot of perhaps more senior types of roles in programs, or people who had perhaps a stronger skill set, have been working in the field for a number of years, transitioned into those roles. And so it left a lot of programs, you know, not only with staff that were less qualified in some cases, especially in some smaller communities, but it, you know, there was like a ripple effect that happened because of that. And that's an issue. I mean, while those programs are valuable programs, on the other hand, the childcare programs that truly require, from a regulatory perspective, licensed practitioners to be working with the children, it's hard when you have a big group of people now leaving to go to another program, right?
Right, and I think you just came full circle to our conversation just about the field and the lack of qualified people and training and all that. Is that at the same time we have kind of lowered our requirements for working in the field, we have lost a lot of mentors. So people coming out of these shortened 10 months, a lot of times now online programs, are going into work situations where they don't have strong mentors.
Right.
So there's the full circle, and one of our full circles.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're right. Mentoring is a huge issue, and I know for programs that I've been connected with, you know, it's such a valuable thing. And if there really is no one who can play that role, and unfortunately sometimes in very rural areas, I think there just isn't anyone there that has that skill set, right? And so it's something that I myself have really been struggling with, and trying to think of really innovative ways. Well, how can we create mentoring opportunities in new and different ways? Because that wisdom it's really valuable. It's, you know, and not only valuable from the operational perspective of a program, but valuable for the person who's trying to grow themselves within, you know, and build a career, whatever that career is, despite the fact that the wages might be not where we want them to be. But there are people who are truly committed and who do stick around for a good long time in the field because of that commitment, right? So we want to be able to nurture and grow those individuals.
Yeah. Yes, I talked to my mentors over the years, and Yeah.
So I guess, I mean, great discussion. As we kind of come to a close, I'm interested in, I know, I mean, you're working with families whose children are sort of, you know, very young in the community and who have extra needs in many cases. You know, why do you think, what comes to mind for you? We often talk about why it's important to invest in the early years, but I mean, it really is important, and you're working with, you know, some of the youngest and in many cases most vulnerable children in your community. Why do you think we really need to spend that time and resources and commitment in investing in young children right from the very beginning?
It's all in the research. It's the absolute foundation for further development and for absolutely everything that we will be capable of achieving in our lives. Whether we achieve it or not depends on the kind of the start we have, and the brain that we help to develop.
Right. Yeah, it's so important, isn't it? It's just, you know, it really is. And so, I don't know, I guess that's why you and I are here in this conversation, right? Because we believe in that, and you know, we really believe in it for the region that you're in. I mean, as well as, you know, every other part of Canada and different places too. But there's some really important and critical issues happening in your part of British Columbia, and every child deserves the best start possible, right? They really do.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Thank you so much for talking with me this morning. Yeah.
Can I add one? I had one more thought that I just wanted to put out there, and it was just that I think part of our conversation in the East Kootenay and everywhere about childcare needs to be changing the kind of default setting from childcare to early childhood development. I've seen this divide grow over the last few years, where childcare is seen as more of a women, a working family. You have the kid, you look after it. Yet we're perfectly willing to support other programs for families with young children, and I think we've got to work at bringing early childhood development all together and seen as one system, not these two separate and sometimes competing factions.
That's a really important point.
That's my kind of,
yeah, no, that's very, very important, you know, because the child is the child at the end of the day, right?
And families, yes, families are families, and one isn't better than the other. It's all part of the kind of array of services that families with young children will really benefit from.
Very, very true. Great closing thoughts. Wow, thank you so much. So if someone is interested in contacting you, if they watch this video and they would like to know more about services or things that you are connected with, how is the best way for them to get in touch with you?
I would say probably email.
Okay. So what we can do is, when I put up the conversation in the blog post, I guess I can put your email address in there.
Absolutely.
And folks can find it there.
Yes.
So we'll go from there. Okay.
Great.
Super.
Okay.
Well, thank you so much. I've so appreciated chatting with you this morning and having you part of these conversations on this important issue in the East Kootenay region.
You too, Jane. Thanks very much. It's great to have this opportunity.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye.